It cost him, and he made an unfortunate decision, so maybe just need to slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to see another sweep coming up. We're about to find out as the next match is ready. So one of the other Chinese hopes is going to be OmegaZero.
OmegaZero, one of the most accomplished ladder players, not just in China, but across the world. Incredible performance from him, and a mainstay of the HCT circuit.
Is the risk going to pay off? It's Fr0zen.
An incredibly talented player and deck builder, brought an innovative strategy and is so far being rewarded.
Decider match. Number 4, Fr0zen versus OmegaZero.
OmegaZero is probably my least favorite opponent.
I think Fr0zen's lineup is by far the most unique of all 16 players.
I think 52% versus the lineup.
His mage deck could be called into question, but I don't know for sure because I haven't had a chance to test it. But there must be a reason that he brought that deck, so we'll see.
I have the best lineup and probably the most well-prepared player, and it's not even close.
Fr0zen versus OmegaZero. Let's rock!
America's last hope in Fr0zen up against OmegaZero from China, looking for redemption from the 2016 World Championship, and actually kind of a yawn. Potentially some fatigue settling in. Players have been practicing relentlessly for this elimination day. My name is Fr0zen, I'm joined by Brian Kibler. And it seems like the stakes have never been higher for both these players coming into it, but OmegaZero better wake up if he's going to be showing some fatigue here.
I mean, he may have just woken up because this day has gone by so quickly. We have had 3-0, 3-0, and perhaps the fastest 3-0, just the last match between Generachi and Purple there. It is a breakneck pace, and we're getting right into the games already.
That's right. I actually didn't get a chance to even look at the bans. Okay, Warlock on both sides. You know, OmegaZero in the interviews was talking about how he wasn't exactly sure how this big spell mage would perform. It's still relatively new. And again, we talked about it a few days ago, but if you're just tuning in because it is a Saturday, happy Saturday to everyone watching. You know, people are now innovating with this big spell mage in a lot of lineups currently for a lot of the tour stops.
Yeah, and this is actually the first time we're going to see Fr0zen play his version of Big Spell Mage in this tournament. Both of his previous matches, it was banned. However, OmegaZero, he said he doesn't know what to think about it, hasn't had a chance to play with it, and now it will be Fr0zen's first chance to play it on this stage today.
OmegaZero has a lot of ticks about his playstyle and the way he you know, handles tournament play. One of them, of course, is that he's very focused on it. He's always tapping. It's not really about nervousness. It's actually him getting in the zone. I
can definitely relate to fidgeting at all times, when, you know, whether it's
you don't
tapping on the desk, shuffling cards, whatever it is. I can respect that pent-up energy.
I've heard rumors about the legendary Brian Kibler streaming desk and all of your fidget spinners and crazy little gadgets there. Fr0zen, you know, going to play this tempo Mediz Valet just to get board presence, and he's practiced his deck and says he's the most well-prepared player. Here's why.
A lot of people have a very strong full lineup because they don't have Control Mage, and Control Mage has been performing really well in recent tournaments after the deck lists have been submitted.
That's right, Fr0zen, one of the people brave enough to bring it. I mean, what ends up happening is some players in the top 16 here may have played Big Spell Mage but didn't feel confident in it because they felt like they didn't test it enough. Other players didn't even know it existed. So you're watching cutting-edge technology, kind of the halfway point of this expansion.
Well, this Megasaur for OmegaZero is going to be a big moment in this game. He can find Divine Shield or plus health. Both of those, yeah, there's the Divine Shield. That will shut down the Dragon's Furies from Fr0zen from having even a hope of clearing this board next turn. One thing we didn't touch on was actually OmegaZero's choice with the Hydrologist. All the way back on turn 2, he chose Eye for an Eye. And I believe that is a nod to his belief he can get aggressive enough to break Ice Block and ensure that Fr0zen doesn't have the ability to survive with that Ice Block. One of the problems with that in this matchup, though, is that Fr0zen isn't playing like a traditional freeze mage style of deck. He's playing a much more defensively oriented deck, and that Arcane Artificer we see on the screen right there, one of the key cards in this deck, that can give you the ability to get out of range of Eye for an Eye. So I'm curious what exactly OmegaZero's thought process was with that Eye for an Eye in this matchup. But, well, he's going to be doing a lot of damage this turn to Fr0zen as the war leader sends Fr0zen all the way down to just 2 life. Dragon's Fury, number 2.
It's a guaranteed clear, I believe.
It does hit an Arcane Intellect, but that's enough to kill all the small Murlocs. The Arcane Intellect is a card that is a little bit unusual in Fr0zen's version of Big Spell Mage. A lot of players choose to exclude that in favor of cards like Acolyte of Pain, most commonly. That's what we see Sinto all using. However, Fr0zen said that he feels like the Arcane Intellects are especially important against Priest because they can kill your Acolyte of Pain before they draw you multiple cards. So he's willing to risk the danger of hitting that with Dragon's Fury, especially because in many aggro matchups, as we just saw, it doesn't matter that much because he is able to take it down. So comes up with Ice Block.
I think at this point, Fr0zen acknowledges that it's more important to guarantee his safety, and by playing the Arcane Intellect, he increases his chances of drawing that Arcane Artificer. One of the big swings that you can punish really aggressive decks with is Arcane Artificer in Blizzard.
Yes.
And then follow it with bigger AoE and basically lock your opponent out of the game. Now, OmegaZero also has this very cheeky card in the Eye for an Eye on the far left. I wonder if he's going to be able to sneak in any capacity this game.
Right now, he has to be thinking, okay, how do I play into the possible removal options that Fr0zen will have available next turn? And he does have the opportunity to try for, if he wants to Call to Arms and try to hit Knife Juggler to break at 1 life, which does mean that there is the Eye for an Eye having more potential effect, as well as just giving him more options to actually win the game. I think that there's some incentive to just hold on to Eye for an Eye because if his board does get frozen, that Call to Arms can then get a Knife Juggler, which can actually win the game despite his entire board being locked up. He's going to go for it right now, though. That is a lot of Murlocs.
Important to note, they're actually, this is a Murloc-powered version, so there's no Knife Jugglers to pull in this list.
No, I feel foolish.
Important distinction to note.
The version that Hoy actually used did have Knife Jugglers. That's where I was making the mistake. So, my apologies. Blizzard will lock down these minions here. And a Rallying Blade would be enough, not a weapon for OmegaZero.
Oh man, this is really scary too for OmegaZero. If he can't land a sticky board with Divine Shield or Death Rattle.
There's Death Rattle. So Living Spores does mean that a Flame Strike would lead to lethal damage remaining on the board, thanks to those 2 Murlocs.
Unless Fr0zen's able to find a way to stall even further here. And stall he may.
Well, there's an Ice Block, so that can give him the ability to ping down one of these Murlocs, lock up the board.
Yes, and then ping and Flame Strike the following turn.
And actually, one crucial part of that is that actually, no, it's not going to work out, I'm thinking briefly. I was actually thinking for OmegaZero. Last turn, he hero powered and played the Megasaur. He could have played Blessing of Kings on 1 big minion, so that if there were specifically Flame Strike, which of course is actually only 1 copy of in Fr0zen's deck, that he'd be able to have a minion that would survive. However, in the Death Rattle ended up working out extremely well for him.
What to do?
And this is what Fr0zen is going to do. He's going to ping down one of these minions, get rid of that Death Rattle, play the Ice Block, and I would not be surprised to see OmegaZero Blessing of Kings one of his minions this turn, so it gets out of Flame Strike range.
Out on me.
Right. So that is not an option for Fr0zen the next turn. It will break the Ice Block.
In fact, shouldn't he Blessing of Kings the Murloc perhaps? So that way the AoE doesn't hit it?
That's another option. Blessing of Kings on the Death Rattle Murloc would mean that Flame Strike is not enough.
Unless I'm missing something, because both Dragon's Furies have been used. So it couldn't polymorph in Dragon's Fury.
Let me think.
So maybe buff the Megasaur because it has the most health then. It's going to be the most resilient to it.
And it does. If you do buff the Megasaur, then the option of Dirty Rat plus Flame Strike means that you'll have the large Megasaur to kill the Dirty Rat, and then the remaining plants to kill your opponent through that combination of cards.
Yes. Okay.
Well, that is a large Corridor Creeper.
I can say give him another sword.
Just a 15-7, no big deal. Yeah, the Dirty Rat plus Flame Strike is not enough to take out that Corridor Creeper, and the Creeper will be able to bust through the Dirty Rat and leave the plants left to take down Fr0zen's single remaining health point.
I wonder.
I don't even know what he could draw here. He doesn't have a Blizzard or anything installed.
Yeah, the Flame Strike does clear everything off,
Wow.
except for that Creeper, which OmegaZero buffed for exactly this reason to take game number 1.
Massive victory here for OmegaZero. Fr0zen's lineup has great matchups all across the board, and every single unfavorable he can take will be invaluable for his march to victory. OmegaZero leads 1-0, but we're just getting underway, and we'll see more action from Fr0zen, potentially seeing his mage as well. In the meantime, you can take a look at other things around the tavern. Ben Bro's in the house playing against Tice.
Yeah, this is Cannons Away. It is a Hearthstone battleship game. You can play right here at the World Championship Hall.
At the end of the day, you still need to practice a little bit to see if your ideas are right, because we often are wrong too, and then the idea goes away after 5 matches.
And to also tell people some of the ways we are practicing, but still keeping some of the things secret. Usually we just target matchups. Like we take some matchups that we are not sure about, or some matchups where we want to figure out the best optimal game plan or mulligans, and we just grind them out. And I know, for example, with you, I'm not sure if I'm revealing like a big secret. For example, you like to like throw away important cards in the matchup to see if you can win the game without those important cards. Like, I remember when Fiery Warriors was 2 mana, Tice was like throwing it away against aggro just to see what is the matchup like without having Fiery Warriors in his starting hand. So that's something like next level. You're putting yourself in situations, you're creating spots that you might have to deal with in a tournament, because let's be real, if you play so many rounds, you're not gonna always have situations where everything goes perfect. So you're gonna have to improvise, and you're gonna have to feel the matchup beforehand.
Mulligan your best card away. Mulligan your Interface mate, mulligan your Fire Warwick's away, mulligan your Wild Growth away, and see how then your deck is, because then you get a real, everybody knows how to, when a deck like draws really well, knows how it goes. But how does it go when 2 decks are not drawing so well? And I think that can also be really interesting for competing. I think it's really good to get some experience at maybe like go once to a tournament, and you will feel a lot of different things. My first 1 or 2 tournaments, man, I was like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this? So bring your experience, bring your gameplay to a LAN. I still think that's a really a pretty hard challenge that you have to experiment with.
Yeah.
OmegaZero is currently up 1-0 over Fr0zen. And it turns out third time was a charm for OmegaZero to qualify for this World Championship. He is one of China's best players and knows what it's like to be here.
I am one of the best players in China, and with some decks, I am the best. There's a lot of pressure being the top player, but pressure is good too, because pressure motivates me. When I try my hardest to win the championship, I'm very difficult to beat.
It's going to be Pavel versus OmegaZero.
Before last year's match against Pavel, I never thought that I could lose, but the game can change very fast.
OmegaZero 3-0. This guy's doing it.
He's doing it. The aggression, it's working out for him.
The fourth game was against Cthulhu Warrior. I didn't draw great cards and I lost the game.
OmegaZero did him a well played before Yog, and he meant it. Wow, look at that. That is enough for Pavel to win this game. For me, that Spellbender was too much, and
there's nothing OmegaZero can do at this point.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough, and a reverse sweep for Pavel. What a series.
Yeah.
I played my best. I rewatched the match. I couldn't have played any better. I want to be the world champion, so I'll work as hard as I can until I achieve that goal.
Oh, it pains my heart because I voted for OmegaZero last year for PAX, and I mean, I bought into the hype. People were saying this guy is something special. In China, there are crazy amounts of players compared to the rest of the regions in terms of legend players, right? There's just so many people going for it. If you lose once, it just hurts that much more. It's so difficult to get it into the top 100 rankings. OmegaZero's finished #1 several times. And so people are saying he was the ladder god of all ladder gods. And so I was like, oh man, this guy's got so much hype. And then last year didn't work out. And then now he's come 3 times in 2017 to the HCT stage, with the 4th, of course, coming here to the World Championship. Unbelievable year for this guy, but he needs to go a little bit further if he's going to call himself the champion.
He's got to fight through. My choice for PAX, Fr0zen.
Well, I mean, I picked Kalenta, so I got wrecked there. My rip Fr0zen PAX.
But into this game number 2, OmegaZero on the aggro druid deck. This is a deck that has struggled so far in this tournament quite a bit. We've seen this deck lose this matchup in particular a lot of times.
Right, and it's not going to be helpful that Patches gets drawn as well. Fr0zen's just going to punt his big spell mage for now and see if he can go to it another time. In the meanwhile, OmegaZero trying to pile on his early aggression, but he has no Market Yashara. He's just trying to maximize the pure amount of damage as possible.
You actually see Fr0zen mouse over Radiant Smite before his turn even starts, and that is his play. Going to take out the Enchanted Raven and get a 2/3 bounty on the board, which does very well at slowing down OmegaZero's development here, as he is lacking any kind of buffs. Just a bunch of small minions.
And with that, Fr0zen knows Patches is in the hand. And that is a comfortable spot to be in.
Take down one of the pirates and heal up his Radiant. That Spirit Lash, pretty good draw as well, because it does mean that can potentially finish off this Corsair if he so desires.
Again, pretty fast opening turns here. Not much to do for Fr0zen. His game plan is pretty straightforward. Exhaust the Druid of resources.
Another captain picked up for OmegaZero. So this suddenly turns what was looking a pretty anemic board into a lot of damage right now. 10 coming in this turn for OmegaZero.
Yeah, he's one Savage Roar away from winning the game.
Oh dear.
Yeah, what happened? I mean, OmegaZero is supposed to have a terrible hand, and it was supposed to almost be a very routine crushing from the Highlander Priest.
And, I mean, this is one of the problems with the Highlander Priest deck. It has a lot of situational cards that are, in many cases, quite slow as well. Mind Blast. Great finishing your opponent off with Prophet Valen. Not good at dealing with a bunch of pirates. Here we're going to see a Silence just slow down the bleeding here a little bit. There's still the threat of a Savage Roar. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plus 10, 21, 22 with the hero power. There is actually just the threat of lethal damage from Savage Roar.
Oh my goodness.
Next turn, even if Fr0zen heals his face.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to see the Spirit Lash right now, because Fr0zen does not want Savage Roar to end his game just yet.
It is also a hedge against double buff, which is a possibility. And now OmegaZero has to weigh how much is he going to play into a Dragonfire Potion. He just saw a very awkward turn from Fr0zen. So if this doesn't indicate some AoE or maybe just reactive cards in general, and I don't know what does. Because look at Fr0zen's past couple turns. It was like silence Spear Lash and just heal himself.
OmegaZero does have 11 damage that he can send in on the board, plus another hero power damage. He wants to just sit back. That does not close the game that quickly, though. Will he devote any more resources to the board? Just going to sit back, looks like, and force Fr0zen to use AoE on this, and potentially reload again after the fact. Right. He's still threatening Savage Roar. He saw Fr0zen. Well, maybe a Flame Elemental, maybe a Dynamo. All right, well, he saw Fr0zen respect Savage Roar last turn and the threat of lethal damage. Dragonfire will clear the board. The tapping continues for OmegaZero as he's looking for a second game win here. That Kazakus drop to Fr0zen was pretty huge because the rest of his hand is situational combo type cards, but Kazakus can give him some power here.
Shadowy Brandon's also picked up, which is not also, it's not just important because you're able to use the hero power, but you know, I feel like some of the life gain is going to be even useful too. OmegaZero's been calculating everything based off the Savage Roar top deck too. That's why he even played the Dire Mold there, because in case, you know, Pyromancer came out, a couple minions stuck onto the board, he also had the lethal past that. But it's not going to be enough, and it looks like Fr0zen is forced to play the Kazakus disposition.
I think the question for Fr0zen here is what he does with Kazakus. Because he can Kazakus for one, to potentially get damage / AoE to clear off several of the minions on this board and leave him with a very clean board going into his potential Anduin turn. He could also go for 5, which allows him to potentially set up something stronger next turn, but he has the Anduin that he looks like he's likely to want to play next turn. So I can imagine him wanting to possibly go for the more immediate impact. He does go for 5.
I gotta say, man. Oh, picks up the Fell
There's the AoE.
I was saying the Gate 7 armor also seems appealing as well. He wants to draw cards as a priority, though. Don't blame him. Having
Savage Roar for OmegaZero. Not quite lethal here, though.
Yeah, it's only 13 damage.
He's just out of range of killing Fr0zen.
Still go for it. You know that there's a very strong possibility that the Kazakus Potion will clear your board, so get damage in while you can.
The question here for OmegaZero is whether he goes face or clears off the Kazakus. If he does clear off Kazakus, then a 4 damage AoE will not kill his Tar Creeper, so a buff would still be a live draw.
Same time, Tar Creeper's preserving 1 damage if he does have the 4 damage.
It's not the scariest minion.
It's not the most intimidating thing. And your opponent also might not even get the Fell Bloom 4 damage to all minions.
But that is what Fr0zen has. The board is clear, picks up 2 more cards. Binding Heal, no target right now, but that is a nice insurance policy for Fr0zen to pad his health.
Yeah, needs to heal himself. Acolyte would mean that he's susceptible to a Savage Roar #2, but that would only be it. He could lose to a 1 out of 19, or he could develop the Acolyte, be a little greedy, try to get ahead of potentially Living Man.
I feel like his board state, you know, his hand is such that, you know, can he afford to run the risk? He's going to risk it. There is a 1 in 19 chance OmegaZero draws Savage Roar. It is not Roar.
Wow.
Lord or Creeper.
I don't know, man.
That was a scary moment.
It was. It was like a 5-6% chance that would happen. And looks like Fr0zen has withstood the pressure, and now Shadowy Brandon and even a Binding Heal just for insurance. He needs it. OmegaZero needs Living Mana.
Well, there's Living Mana, and Fr0zen having the Acolyte of Pain in play already. He's going to be able to dig a little bit for some AoE to help deal with this. He already has Circle in hand. Akanai is a possible... Actually, he doesn't have Akanai's deck. Never mind. I'm so used to seeing Circle always in a deck with Akanai.
Right. You know, reminder that there's some dragons in the deck with Dustbreaker and Draken Operative.
Oh, Prophet Velen with the Binding Heal does give a little bit different dynamic here as well. Can heal for a lot if he chooses.
So he can remove 3 of these tokens pretty easily right now. Question becomes of how he wants to spend his mana in terms of healing or just dealing with the board.
This is an interesting spot because OmegaZero can just draw Roar. He can just end the game drawing Savage Roar if Fr0zen leaves up, well, pretty much any of these.
Right.
And can he possibly remove enough of them so that Savage Roar is not lethal even with Binding Heal? I don't believe so.
No,
I think there is no way to survive a Savage Roar draw.
Unless he gets a Dustbreaker off the Nettis by Historian.
The rope is burning. Not much time left for Fr0zen here.
Looks like he might be relegated to a Prophet Velen Binding Heal play.
Yeah, that's all he has time for, and Velen Binding Heal gains him 10 life.
Didn't want to bank.
Roar is lethal. Mark of Yashiraj is not. But there's still 14 damage available to OmegaZero. 16 if he does choose to mark. He is, in fact, 1 damage off lethal here.
1 mana off lethal.
Yeah.
I didn't even think Aggro Druid had a shot of winning this game, let alone being this close. Oh yeah, we're getting in there.
And crucially, Fr0zen has used Binding Heal. He has used Velen. He doesn't have access to any heal except Priest of the Feast in his deck. He has attacked down to 1. Hero Power is lethal. There's Priest of the Feast, though.
Oh my goodness. And Nettis by Historian also has a big draw opportunity with Primordial Drake or a Dustbreaker.
Fr0zen needs to deal with this board and heal. He can't just kill all the minions. That would leave him dead to hero power. So a spell plus Priest of the Feast is an absolute requirement for his turn.
Yeah, Raza is not going to help clear everything by itself, but definitely some nice ability to help clear a lot of this. Wait, are we missing something? Does he have lethal?
I don't think so. Maybe he does.
Hold on, 17 with this Mind Blast. Hero Power.
The shadows grow short.
Oh wait, does he have to Shadow Word? Oh no, he can. He Shadow Word
Death
his own Raza.
He's Death his own guy. Is this actually enough? This is actually kind of crazy. He's literally killing him here. He is. He actually does have lethal. Yeah, he has it.
Unbelievable!
Oh my god, we're here looking to see if he can survive, and Fr0zen finds lethal over 30 damage with the Raza off the top.
He needed to have the death on his Raza because his Prophet Velen would only deal 2 damage if it was dead. That OmegaZero is devastated. He thought he was able to steal that one.
I thought he was too. I was not looking for lethal, but Fr0zen was. And he steals a game that looked like he was definitely going to lose.
That was ridiculous. To be able to keep his mind open and flexible of spotting a potential way to win. We were focused on survival. Priest of the Feast and all these cheap spells were like, yeah, surely there's got to be some way for him to survive and hedge. And he said, why wait? I'm going to win now. And that is just a glimpse into why Fr0zen is one of the top players, not just in Americas, but in the world.
Fr0zen, ladies and gentlemen, has done it, coming back from a huge deficit to be the first qualifier for the World Championship.
Might have been an advantage to qualify super early because I've been playing non-stop for a few years now and I've never had a serious break. I think it was a good timing. Taking some time off allowed me to get fresh ideas, figuring out new ways to think about the game, new ideas for decks. Focus more on the statistics, focus more on math-based approach. I think I'm probably more confident than any other player here. I have the best lineup and probably the most well-prepared, and it's not even close. I don't have any regrets in any of the decks I brought, and I hope I don't have any regrets in the matches I play.
Fr0zen feels prepared and looks like he's on point, not tunnel visioning, and of course setting up opportunities to be able to get that lethal, because that Prophet Valen and that Binding Heal set up that opportunity to pressure his opponent in case he drew that Raza. My goodness, what a series we have on our hands, and we're just getting started as this is the halfway point. Game number 3 with Big Spell Mage up against the Highlander Priest from OmegaZero.
And this is the match that I have wanted to see, because Fr0zen's Big Spell Mage is built to win this matchup in ways that are very different than you often see players attempt to get an edge. Fr0zen is looking to essentially just eliminate all of the resources from the Priest and leave them in a position where they cannot end up closing the game. We've seen players try to do this with Jade Druid. Jade Druid has lots of armor gain, but Mage isn't really known for armor gain, but the Arcane Artificer that we see in Fr0zen's hand right now, plus Jaina, can get you really, really a lot of life.
Yeah.
There's Jaina. That's actually a huge draw for Fr0zen there, because finding Jaina early enough in the game is very important to your ability to actually pressure your opponent's resources rather than just sit back and eventually get pummeled by Anduin.
Yeah, in slow matchups like this, it really can come down to the Death Knight battles, with the Shadow Reaper Anduin versus the Frostlich Jaina. But this is one of those instances that Fr0zen was hoping for. You look at the Big Spell Mage and how he's trying to corner a lot of the decks, and OmegaZero does not want his Aggro Druid to play against Big Spell Mage.
And we see OmegaZero, he recognizes that he needs to be proactive here. He can't just sit back. He's looking to put the pressure on with his own minion, because he is the one who needs to end the game. Fr0zen actually does have a kind of inevitability thanks to his armor gain and life gain from Jaina and those artificers. The big thing here is that Ice Block from Fr0zen can protect him from those burst turns. Yes, we have seen the Priest decks deal upwards of 40 damage in a single turn. Well, you have to deal that 40 damage and potentially do it again, because you get your Velen Polymorph, you get another Ice Block up, you gain some armor. You've got to fight through all of that defense from the Mage over and over.
Oh yeah, and don't forget that card Alex Straza also gives Mage a flexibility and even turning on the aggression. We've seen Priest be cornered because they convert to Shadow Reaper and have no healing, and then Mage has that opportunity to set up that Ice Block for 2-turn lethal setups.
Oh, Raza, though, a big draw for OmegaZero here. Getting that online quickly can be quite crucial. One of the other crucial cards for Fr0zen in this matchup is, in fact, Dirty Rat, because against the Raza Priest decks, Dirty Rat is able to take out key cards from your hand like Prophet Valen, and without Prophet Valen, your damage potential goes dramatically down. And when Fr0zen is largely trying to grind you out of resources, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's worth evaluating for OmegaZero. Should I be cycling some of these cards here? Do I want to extend into it? My opponent saved coin for a long time. Possibility that that card that was kept early on could be the Frostlich Jaina.
One of the big things that OmegaZero needs to be thinking about is actually holding on to minions in order to play around the Dirty Rat on Prophet Valen at this point. He's already gotten his Raza down, so that's not really a concern. Speaking of not a concern, Ice Barrier, not really a particularly valuable hit for OmegaZero here, because Fr0zen is not really looking to win by attacking on the ground. There's a Dirty Rat.
Right, this is something that OmegaZero is factoring in. The Dirty Rats can be problematic, so you want to keep as many minions that's not Prophet Valen in that you find expendable.
One of the ways that you can approach this matchup from the Mage side is to hold on to Dirty Rat until your opponent plays Anduin. The longer the game goes on, the more likely they are to be waiting in hand with that Prophet Valen.
Flame Strike on a Curious Glimmeru. That is not value whatsoever, but Fr0zen recognizes that he needs to preserve his armor count in order for him to have a shot of winning this game.
Yeah. Blade of Pain for OmegaZero is one of those minions in his hand. He's going to go ahead and cycle the Holy Smite, heal that back up, wants to get himself farther through his deck to find Anduin. And the secret here, as I mentioned, doesn't really concern Fr0zen too much. Even if it is Ice Block, his primary way to win this game is actually via fatigue once he gets Jaina down and has the removal and armor gain that he can bring to bear.
Fr0zen reveals the bad news to OmegaZero. That Death Knight is online.
The Shadowward Pain from OmegaZero does give him a way to deal with this Water Elemental, but there will be more. The Jaina in this matchup allows Fr0zen to turn what are typically weak removal spells in his hand against Priest into threats themselves. And not only are they threats that force responses from OmegaZero, but they also have lifesteal, which means that he can grind out the Anduin damage over turns plan. You have to be reliant on a burst plan, which again runs into the threat of Ice Block, runs into the threat of getting your Valen hit by Dirty Rat. So it's much harder for OmegaZero to win this game in that regard. The Dragon's Fury picked up by the Raven Familiar here.
I like this polymorph on the Acolyte, denies the card draw, sets up a Water Elemental. Pressure OmegaZero. Light Oracle. Double-edged sword, but OmegaZero cares about drawing. That is his biggest priority, to get to Shadow Reaper Anduin.
That's Anduin.
Ooh. And a little unfortunate that he doesn't have the mana to be able to play the Shadow Reaper Anduin at this point.
OmegaZero debating if he wants to fire off the Pint Size plus Horror in his hand to kill that Water Elemental and the Raven Familiar. He would kill, of course, his own Oracle here, but that's not really a key part of his game plan.
Yep, just size to hold. Still needs all his minions for Dirty Rat potential.
And the Blood Mage Thalnos does give Fr0zen another minion he can ping to cycle through, make himself another Water Elemental.
Now with so much removal, there's almost no chance for OmegaZero to stick a minion onto the board. He's going to need to do burst damage and hope that these Water Elementals don't gain too much life on the backswing.
Does have Anduin, so time to have the Death Knight battle we were talking about.
Right, but then here's another thing. He has to be very careful about the Dirty Rat, and he's done all the precautions that he can within reason. He has 4 minions in hand. And one of them has to not be Prophet Valen. OmegaZero has to dodge this.
Cleric comes down, not a card that matters to OmegaZero at this stage. Yeah. No more healing anyway. He turned into Anduin.
And I think Fr0zen definitely knows that Prophet Valen is most likely in the hand, because OmegaZero has been making some very weak plays and holding the left side of his hand for a long time. But he does have another Dirty Rat in the deck. If I'm OmegaZero, I might be tempted to just clear the board and pressure, but try to think about the fastest way I can get Prophet Valen out of my hand, so that way the second Dirty Rat's not a threat. The nice thing, though, is that if your opponent had the second Dirty Rat, there's a high chance he would have played the second one, too.
Pint Size plus Horror will deal with the Water Elementals for OmegaZero. Fr0zen actually has a full hand after this draw, so he's in a position he has to play something or he will burn. The second Artificer is nice, but you generally want to hold on to the Artificers until after your opponent has bursted you, because you need the armor gain to deal with the second wave, especially if you have not actually hit Prophet Valen. It's important that you don't let them just get the 40 damage turn, which they're capable of, burning you down more than is necessary.
Does fatigue matter as well from this position? Because it's pretty close, and if Fr0zen uses the Arcane Intellect, he'd be tied in cards.
Fatigue is absolutely the way that this game will end if Fr0zen wins. And we see him, choose to hold on to the Alexstrasza, just burning a Dragon's Fury here. 7 damage to all the nothing in play.
Right. OmegaZero has not found his Mind Blast.
And now OmegaZero is in a position where he doesn't really want to play minions. Because if he plays minions, there is the threat that Fr0zen is able to remove them, ping them, and turn them into water elementals. And that just gives Fr0zen tools to advance his own strategy.
Fr0zen has the opportunity to gain some life with the Artificer by playing Firelance Portal and summon another minion, but he can't get the water elemental out guaranteed.
Is going to be 7 armor from the Firelance Portal and the Artificer here.
A couple minions with 1 health off that at 5 cost. Oh,
Red
man.
Mana Worm.
That puts a decent amount of pressure.
Well, hold on. What does Potion of Madness in this Red Mana Worm do?
Oh.
That can be a lot of damage right now for OmegaZero if he chains a bunch of spells.
Oh my gosh, and he just picked up Prophet Valen as well. Oh, sorry, Mind Blast as well.
If he Potion of Madness, he can potentially... He could Potion of Madness, Veil, and Mind Blast. Does that bring the block? Plus silence there. Probably not, right? It's a lot, though. That's not a card that I think people usually have like a heuristic in their brain in terms of, okay, how does this work?
So Mind Blast is 20 with the Prophet Valen, plus silence is an extra 4. Does the Potion of Madness activate the buff on the Red Mana Worm?
I don't believe so. I think it's a when you. Oh, he's going to gain some armor himself and send this in to die. That's not nearly as fun.
Yeah, that's not nearly as cool, but I mean, obviously OmegaZero is thinking about the possibilities.
It's true. It's true. This does let him utilize the Dragonfire Potion to gain some armor himself. Interestingly, the Red Mana Worm is not a dragon. I think it's actually an elemental. We saw the little lightning bolt symbol on that. Was it? I guess it just means it has a face. All right, well, ping your face. Galactic Crawler coming down. Shadow Visions for OmegaZero. What spells are left in his deck? I believe he is pretty low on spells.
He has
just
one
Shadow Word Death left in his deck.
Yeah, 1 Shadow Word Death. So could use a Shadow Vision just to get extra damage. Doesn't even have a death target, but can get that death preemptively for an Alexstrasza if that's needed.
The fact that there's only a single card revealed by the Shadow Visions is information from Fr0zen. He actually knows now that every single spell in OmegaZero's deck is in his hand because he got the single copy of whatever spell was left. He doesn't know necessarily what is a potential duplicate.
Oh my goodness. Round 2, but this time the odds are better.
1 in 3 that Prophet Valen gives up the dirt if he decides to play it now. No, he's going to hold back.
And OmegaZero knows that even if he bursts Fr0zen, Fr0zen has a lot of ways to rebound.
All Shadow Priest taking the Galactic Crawler. There's no Flame Strike left in the deck. There's actually only an Arcane Intellect for spells. Oh! Valen is the hit! And Fr0zen has Meteor to take him down alongside the Galactic Crawler. I think it was the Galactic Crawler was a sleeper agent. He just went over there. He's like, hey, you.
The fact that Fr0zen did not play it immediately may have lulled OmegaZero into a false sense of security because it feels like he was holding so many of these cards like Priest of the Feast to not only make it complicated for the Water Elementals and the Icy Touch, but also to protect Prophet Valen. So OmegaZero took his time. He said, you know what, another draw, I can wait. He's still a 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. Turns out Fr0zen had it for 2 turns. He's now been able to punish OmegaZero. Yeah, I'm hard-pressed to find a way for Priest to win at this point.
He needs to keep trying to grind through this, but there's so much to grind through now without Prophet Valen.
And remember, he does not have Lyra in his deck.
Right.
That is usually another way you can Hail Mary. Instead, he has Kazakus to rely upon
the big
for
card
generation.
The big card left is that Kazakus. If OmegaZero can Kazakus and get a big board full of minions that are buffed in health, that can possibly give him the tools to get enough pressure on Fr0zen before fatigue takes its toll. Crucially, look at the number of cards in each player's deck on the right-hand side of the screen. OmegaZero with just 2, Fr0zen with 5. So if we go into a fatigue situation, OmegaZero is taking much more damage, to say nothing of the fact that Fr0zen has life-stealing elementals available. If OmegaZero plays out minions, then he's able to kill them and ping them.
Right, and also the double-edged sword of second stream actually is sort of relevant at this point, because you're shuffling minions into your opponent's deck and not allowing you any fatigue damage. And fatigue could be relevant to get past Ice Block. In fact, if I'm OmegaZero, that's kind of what I might be concerned about. Trying to see if I can set up a way to get him at 1 when he has exactly 0 cards, because that could be your one window of opportunity to win. At this point, OmegaZero, no point of holding back.
And now that you're not concerned about just getting bursted, the Artificer into Meteor gaining that, and here we go. It is Water Elemental time. Blow both those up, make an Elemental.
Yes.
And now OmegaZero, he's got to deal with this board. He's already used Dragonfire Potion. As you mentioned, Psychic Scream, not necessarily a great reaction to this when you're potentially getting into fatigue situation. Also, hey, you can just draw another Artificer if you leave it up and don't ping the face.
Gotta kill the Artificer is a high priority, but OmegaZero without the Kazakus draw right now doesn't have substantial plays to utilize his mana.
The Kazakus as the last card for OmegaZero is pretty problematic, because that is his one tool left to generate significant threat that Fr0zen may struggle to deal with. Fr0zen does have the Blizzard and Dragon's Fury remaining. There's actually 0 spells left in his deck, though, so Dragon's Fury currently has no effect.
Tough call for OmegaZero. He extends the fatigue for Fr0zen as he now has 2 extra cards, and Fr0zen nods, knowing that that was on another big crucial point in the match.
Right, just a single card left for OmegaZero.
Right. Also, kind of worth noting that he saw that he was holding down the far left for a long time. Fr0zen thinking about any other minions to pull, and Radiant Elemental means less damage. Completely okay with letting this just go. Kind of funny to note, 3 out of the cards of Fr0zen's hand are kind of just nothing. Arcane Intellect doesn't really want to be played. Raven Familiar has no spells to draw.
Well, Kazakus is the major hope for OmegaZero here. He's going to go digging to make a potion.
Yeah.
Gets a big one. Summon 3. Summon 3 can potentially generate a very large board.
Right.
And, ooh, no option for plus health. There's a lot of small minions that have died for OmegaZero. If he summons 3, he's going to gain 10, I assume, there.
I mean, there's also maybe a backup possibility of adding demons to the hand, but nothing.
But there is the possibility that this summon 3 minions gets him sheep. We've seen multiple polymorph minions. We've seen Blood Mage Thalnos die. That not only threatens to give Fr0zen a water elemental, but also draws cards, which will put OmegaZero even deeper into fatigue. Blizzard ping, water elemental.
Hold
on. Here it is.
That Blizzard.
Well, it depends what we see here.
Yeah, he's going to Kazakus Potion, but he doesn't actually have AoE, I think, anymore. Dragon's Fury doesn't reveal anything in his deck.
He's a sheep, though, and he's got the water elemental in play.
Oh,
OmegaZero has to kill his own sheep here, or else.
Gosh.
Okay, he's not going to do it. So now
he's going for broke.
The second water elemental, thanks to the Psychic Scream drawn for Fr0zen. there's no removal available to OmegaZero anymore. There's just a Spirit Lash. And this is just going to be the march of the Water Elementals. This is what Jaina does at this stage of the game. Sheep down, gaining life.
Yeah.
3 Water Elementals, 9 points of lifesteal damage. OmegaZero has just a Galacta Crawler.
And Fr0zen knows that the Psychic Scream is not a possible pickup off the Shadow Visions because of the placement of the hand. So he has a lot of confidence on extending into the board. Look at this, OmegaZero has to start clearing. Because even if Ice Block gets bopped, there's so much damage and lifesteal onto the board. There's not even a target for his Shadow or Death.
And there's still Fr0zen in the hand. Even if he gets Fr0zen down in life, there's no risk of fatigue through the Ice Block for Fr0zen yet. And Fr0zen will just bring his life total back up. Not enough turns for OmegaZero to hope to ping him down. And those life-stealing elementals will just bring him all the way back up. This game is essentially over.
The shadows grow short.
OmegaZero, though, he is trying to find a way out.
I don't see one, no matter how much I'm trying to figure it out.
I've been in exactly this kind of position before with the big page deck.
So I think OmegaZero's plan is what we're talking about. Hit him at 1. When he has 0 cards to draw, go through the Ice Block with fatigue damage.
But he doesn't even have cards he can play unless Fr0zen plays in Fr0zen anyway. He's got Death. And this Water Elemental is going to outpace the Anduin Hero Power. And fatigue will just add up for OmegaZero. Fr0zen is just grinding him out all the way.
Time melts away.
There is an opportunity for Fr0zen to get aggressive here, but I think he's trying to think about the last card in OmegaZero's hand because he hasn't seen the Shadow Visions card, so just has to remember which one. And it's been a long game and actually kind of our longest series by far. I think this game 3 alone probably rivals the length of the series that we've had prior to this.
Absolutely. We were like an hour and a half into the day and 3 matches done.
Time is now.
Pass. And I don't disagree here. Fr0zen wants to keep his options open, don't want to throw it away.
I'm almost out of
OmegaZero just gonna try and whittle down his opponent. Problem is, the Water Elementals at a breaking point, really inconvenient for the Shadow Reaper Anduin Hero Power.
And there it is. Fr0zen grinds out OmegaZero, appropriately enough, with Frostless Jaina.
Mage does it again. Able to take down what many call the best deck in Hearthstone as Highlander Priest drops. Everything is looking pretty good for Fr0zen so far, but he still needs to win one more game. And we will find out what happens in that next game, number 4, coming up when we return to the Hearthstone World Championship.
The quest for Hearthstone's greatest prize continues when the Hearthstone World Championship returns.
My name is Fr0zen, and I play Hearthstone competitively. I'm actually in Beijing for GCWC right now, and apart from playing competitively, I organize Hearthstone tournaments for Titanar, and I used to swim competitively. I think swimming taught me how to grind through everything, and that hard work really pays off. In Hearthstone, I'm one of the well-known grinders for ladder, where I can just play non-stop for many days and get high rank. For the first DreamHack I played in, DreamHack Sweden, I was teamless and I kind of just went to Sweden on my own. My parents weren't very happy since they were traditional Asian parents and they tried their best to dissuade me, but I had a few decks that I was really confident in where nobody played at the time, and I was able to finish second. And I think after that tournament, it was the first time my parents realized that Hearthstone competitively can actually be a self-sufficient way for me to live my life. I think deck building is one of my better skills, and leading the meta as well. I will use a lot of software to figure out the best lineups and through previous tournaments results to find what decks I think will be the best. My goal for this World Championship is first place, and it is very important for next year because of how much points it carries over, and it will give me a head start for my region. My goal is to win the World Championship. I will try my best every single year until I reach it.
Coming up next, it's time for the quarterfinals. Docpone versus Jason Joe. As Docpone from Canada looking to continue the average Joe dream alive. And speaking of the average players, a lot of them are engaging in festivities around the tavern. This is not the only tournament happening around here. There's a daily tournament with competitive Swiss events with the grand prize, I'm told, is travel and accommodation to a HCT season championship next competitive year. So a lot of on the line for some of these people. They're not even necessarily paying attention to this epic series between Fr0zen and OmegaZero. They're saying, I want to book my ticket to the season championship if I'm able to win one of these Swiss events. That's pretty cool in my opinion.
It is, and even with all that going on though, we have a packed house here watching this last decider match between Fr0zen and OmegaZero, and it will be Fr0zen with Jade Druid, OmegaZero with his aggro Druid to start things off.
Lights down and standing room only. Fr0zen is up 2-1 over OmegaZero, and that curve looks pretty fine against an aggressive deck that goes wide onto the board, but aggro Druid has been surprising. Every time I feel like we doubt it, it ends up pulling a rabbit out of its hat a few times. And that's a pretty good opening hand to do it.
It is, though, double Spreading Plague in Fr0zen's opening hand with double ramp to get there will give a lot of roadblocks for OmegaZero trying to fight through here.
OmegaZero has the double buff, and with the Cobalt Scalebane means that he should be able to answer those Spreading Plagues.
That Mark of the Lotus that Fr0zen just picked up is a unusual inclusion in his version of this deck. It pairs very well with those Spreading Plagues against an opponent who is trying to play a bunch of small minions, buff and go wide. It can give his Scarabs the attack to actually deal enough damage to be relevant. So OmegaZero can't just bump into all of them, but this is gonna go pretty quick if OmegaZero has anything to say about it. These are very big minions with triple buffs coming out in these three minions. OmegaZero's already pushing, what is that, 13 damage this turn?
On turn 3. That's what we're expecting from the aggressive Druid decks. Fr0zen introduced with a question. How does he want to deal with this? If he plays Jade Behemoth, Savage Roar, will be enough to kill him. Spreading Plague also is very weak. You know, we're talking about how Spreading Plague is really good against a wide board, but, you know, OmegaZero's kind of built up like what they do in Murloc Paladin. Just very powerful individual minions that can get through the 1/5s.
Yeah, that is a very enchanted Raven. It is big enough to take down one of these Scarabs here, so, you know, Fr0zen trying to figure out how he can navigate this. If there is a Savage Roar in the other hand, he does risk death playing the Jade Behemoth.
Right.
But Spreading Plague alone doesn't do too much to slow the damage. It only stops, well, it stops all the damage right now.
Right.
And frankly, given how much damage there is now, that may be enough.
OmegaZero going to bide his time. And, you know, if you're OmegaZero, do you play this Enchanted Raven here?
Definitely going to stop and think after he makes his plays to take down 2 of those Scarabs. One thing that we have seen Fr0zen do over the course of this event with this deck is find some really interesting opportunities to soften up boards over multiple turns that are full of a lot of big minions. And he doesn't have a swipe right now, but the Spreading Plague plus Mark of the Lotus here will give him a board that will help really soften up OmegaZero's minions, thanks to the 2 attack on each of these. I expect that's what we're going to see. If he does find some of his removal, these Scarabs now 6 health. They're enough to stop any of these minions individually. You know, will we even see Savage Roar from OmegaZero to take these down?
Savage Roar looks very clean to remove almost all of this, but he's trading half his board away.
And it does give him much less threat on the backside of this. You know, he'll no longer just be able to Savage Roar and close out the game if he has these minions survive. This Mark of the Lotus from Fr0zen is absolutely huge here.
However, the Enchanted Raven and the Bloodsail Corsair will survive, and if he sets up Drew the Swarm, that's 11 damage. Facing 12, which is very close.
One of the really interesting things he could do here is actually set up Drew to the Swarm as a poisonous minion to respect the threat of a Jade Behemoth that would allow his other large minions to fight through.
Or even Malfurion, you know, with being able to get out those other Scarabs.
And take down all of these, leaving with just 2 minions. I really want to see a Spider here rather than a Scarab.
Scarab makes it safer for Cobalt Scalebane in the future turns. So I can see it go either way. And it is going to be the health. Wants to protect the 5-1.
This does make a swipe less powerful against him. Ooh, the Jade Blossom actually allows Fr0zen to Behemoth, Innervate Blossom, and set up an Infestation the following turn.
Right. And also get another Jade out. And that 3-3 could prove invaluable here for Fr0zen. OmegaZero starting to sweat.
Savage Roar, though, that is going to, I believe, be enough. 7, 8, nope. Is he just short?
Hold
7,
on.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I believe he has it. Yes,
Yeah,
Savage
that
Roar
should be enough.
Will punch through so many defenses from Fr0zen, but so much offense for OmegaZero. Closes things out to even up the series.
We're going to go to game number 5 to determine who is getting the last spot in the quarterfinals. As OmegaZero will refuse to quit at this point. Fr0zen will have to defeat the Highlander Priest. What a back and forth series as both these players are playing out of their minds to try and set up the best possible scenarios. And with that, when we come back, game number 5 will determine it all between who goes home and who stays alive here in the Hearthstone World Championship.
Do you have any special things that you like to do before a tournament? Like any rituals or superstitions?
Well, I feel sleeping good is important. I like when, for my big tournaments, often the day before I have my rule, the last 24 hours before I go on a big tournament, I don't play Hearthstone. And that sounds maybe strange, but I'm so prepared. I did 2 weeks of the best preparation. If I then queue a ladder game and I'm gonna lose, I feel I'm tilting. I'm like completely not thinking about Hearthstone is what I tried the last 24 hours. And you?
For me, it's like a bit different, but a bit similar. Like, I think I performed the best when I had very little sleep. I try to sleep, but because I try and I want to go to sleep very early, I end up not being able to fall asleep. Then I get tilted because I cannot fall asleep. Then I end up just staying with my eyes closed for like 4 hours and not being able to get enough sleep before the tournament. But then I just perform well because at the tournament I'm like a little bit tired, and because I'm tired, I'm like thinking, man, I'm tired, I need to play better to make up for being tired, and then I play better and make up for being tired. And it's like an entire meta game.
I agree, guys. What do you guys do?
A year in the making has led us to this point. Only one player between OmegaZero and Fr0zen can continue their path to become the world champion. One spot for the top 8 quarterfinals between these two players, one from the United States, one from China. As OmegaZero desperate to get out of that top 12 curse, it's been difficult to say the least for him to get out of group stages at every HCT event. Fr0zen wants to be a one and done. He said he just wants to be first place or it is a disappointment.
And this matchup is one we have seen several times throughout the weekend. The Jade Druid versus Highlander Priest. We have seen a lot of pretty spectacular explosive ends where a Druid who felt like they had built up enough armor and were safe wasn't quite as safe as they thought.
All right, well, these opening hands already start looking good for Fr0zen as he has early ramp and he has Mafurian the Pestilent. That's what you want to be seeing if you're the Druid, get that armor count high. Assuming that's what you want to do. Yesterday on the Hearthstone Championship Tour World Championship, we saw a game where Fr0zen took it so slow that he actually gave an out for surrender by getting some cards with Lyra. And Lyra hit the Forbidden Shaping with some in Deathwing. Could have gotten a few other cards like, Mind Control or Free from Amber, but the point is he played so passive that he let Surrender get back into the game. I wonder if he's going to change his gameplay.
OmegaZero does have a pretty different list than the one that Fr0zen played against in Surrender's lineup. He does not have access to Lyra. He does have more minions in his deck. He has Cabal Shadow Priest. He has the Coldblade Oracle we see in his hand. So it has to be something that Fr0zen keeps in mind so he doesn't just potentially get Jade Idol burned if he Ultimate Infestations his hand full. But he is much safer in terms of being able to build up armor and just grind Fr0zen out. Or grind OmegaZero out, rather.
Yeah, Those aren't exactly the cards you're looking for. Mark of the Lotus doesn't seem to be anything special.
Well, Mark of the Lotus can allow OmegaZero to present a wider board of significant threats. Even just a minion into Mark of the Lotus over the next couple of turns can maybe give OmegaZero the tools to put Fr0zen under more minion pressure. And getting that repeated damage from minion pressure could potentially be what makes the difference in terms of his ability to overcome the armor gain.
Sure, I can buy it. Kazakis can get potions to summon minions, and then put Mark of the Lotus on the board, and that also helps you get past.
All right, we saw Fr0zen holding on to Jade Idol for quite a while in that matchup against Surrender, and now we see the Jade Idol giving him 2 minions thanks to the Violet Teacher off of Oaken Summons.
Yeah, this is the tech that Fr0zen has put into his Jade Druid. The Violet Teacher helped give him a lot more mid-game power with some of these cheap spells in his deck.
One of the big things Violet Teacher does is make branching paths much more threatening. Violet Teacher allows you to build a wide board with various small minions, and then the branching paths, essentially permanent Savage Roar effect, can be really difficult for your opponent to play around as easily. It can be both the big armor gain as well as just push a lot of damage. Ooh, Fr0zen going with spiders rather than scarabs from his Malfurion ability here. Recognizes that OmegaZero's best hope here is playing, say, a Raza on turn 5, and Fr0zen could just immediately get rid of the upfront body of it. Very, very straightforward, or very I'm just missing words here. Very astute play. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Words are hard. But no, I said it the other day that every time I ever make spiders, I feel like really brilliant, and I just keep seeing Fr0zen make spiders. I'm like, he's just so smart.
Yeah. I think it was Fuzzy who said that the more often you're choosing spiders, the better your win rate is.
I think that's absolutely true. Like, I think that people just automatically pick the scarabs so often, and the spiders are just so powerful.
Yeah, this Doomsayer, by the way, is not exactly 2 and 2.
Food for spiders. Look at this. The tapping of OmegaZero here as he's trying to find a good way around the spiders of Fr0zen.
Doesn't look like there's a good way around it other than playing Mark of the Lotus. He doesn't even play it. Indecisiveness could end up being an unfortunate side effect here because OmegaZero has to face Death Knight too. Fr0zen could also take a turn. Oh wow, Fr0zen just draws a card immediately.
I think that what he wants here is double draw. I think that Fr0zen is looking to try to set up he actually could even Spellstone here rather than trade a spider, but I think he's looking to dig to generate more threats. We saw in his matchup against Surrender last time, he just went full armor and didn't necessarily work out, and I think he recognizes that he needs more resources, trying to find Ultimate Infestation to put the pressure on.
Learn his lesson.
Well, there is a Shattered Horror from OmegaZero that can clear off the spider, who is causing him so much distress.
It's a lot better in specifically against Fr0zen's deck though because of Violet Teacher.
Right.
So having a lot of tokens like Spreading Plague, Violet Teacher Apprentices, Shattered Horror has a lot more value you can get than just dealing 2 damage.
Yeah, it's absolutely true because Fr0zen's deck does go much wider than the average Jade Druid, especially considering OmegaZero already has that pint-sized potion in his hand.
I saw the Acre of Undeath here. So yeah, oh my gosh, Fell Bloom and Acre of Undeath. So OmegaZero has the potion to clear the board and summon board while being able to buff it with Mark of Lotus. That's what we're talking about.
Well, the Nourish for Fr0zen, potentially giving him some tools to dig deeper.
Pay attention, class.
All right, well, he's going to set up the Violet Teacher and get the armor plan rolling. 48 for Fr0zen here. We had our friends from HS Replay run some numbers that if the Druid in this matchup gains 20 or more armor, they end up reaching a breakpoint that gives them a enormously increased chance to win. It's so much more difficult for the Priest to power through that much life.
Yeah, the difference between 20 and 30 is very marginal. It's like actually less than 1%.
Yeah.
But the break point between that is 20. You want to be able to get there. And OmegaZero is going to try and clear the board to get that armor count down.
There are 3-3s here.
Right.
But they're going to be 4-4s. Far from the Lotus.
Right. I do wonder if OmegaZero is happy with the fact that...
Oh, Fr0zen lets him potentially double nourish if he wants. Not that the ramp matters too much here, but is a discount of 2 mana, so he gets 2 mana back and can still play potentially that Jade Idol if he wants to shuffle into his deck now, and even the Spellstone to take out one of these minions if he wants.
But he doesn't have a lot of good card draw after this.
It's
so
true.
Shuffling Jade Idol could be problematic. And
He does have branching paths.
Yes.
But it is true that very often in the early to mid game, you don't want to shuffle Jade Idols into your deck because it's more important to find other key cards.
And he knew Fr0zen was going to get pulled out. Both Bio Teachers have been played, so this could be a slight sequence error for Fr0zen, or maybe not even an error, just a situation that he wasn't thinking about immediately.
Well, if he's going to Jade Idol, he has to shuffle anyway because this is the second Jade Idol. In this particular matchup, he does care about having all those Jade Idols. So
true. That is a good point. OmegaZero gonna go for some card draw, and he's gonna look for any of his big combo pieces. We're talking about Raza and Anduin. Still has no sign of them.
Isn't it Malfurion who has like the claws now, but it's actually OmegaZero who keeps like gripping the table like he's trying to scratch through it here?
Yeah, or maybe you should reach out and touch Anduin's hand. A little bit vague. Either way, as looks like he's kind of desperate for real plays here. And this is some criticism that you can look at for having things like Doomsayer and Cabal Shadow Priest. Doesn't necessarily play into the cycle plan for the Priest. It makes you better for removal. And he doesn't need removal. He needs to draw his Death Knight.
Well, there is Infestation for Fr0zen. I think that we may see him start to empty out his hand.
He actually has the benefit of both worlds here. You know, Fr0zen with the hero power means that Fr0zen can utilize that armor gain and deal damage.
It's true.
Not insignificant at all.
There's definitely the consideration here. This Jade Idol, now that he has 2 others in his deck, thanks to the shuffle effect, will start to really dilute his deck, so he's very likely to just draw Jade Idols.
Right. But at the same time, what does he really want to do?
But he has Infestation, right. He has so many of his powerful key cards already.
Yeah, I'm looking at the rest of Fr0zen's deck list, and the cards that I probably would want still are Aya Blackpaw and probably the second Ultimate Infestation. Now, outside of that, I'm not like super excited to draw Wild Growth or a second Swipe here. At least not yet.
Yes. Well, this board is a little bit awkward for OmegaZero. Dragonfire doesn't kill the Behemoth, and also the next Jade is 5/5 anyway. Pint-sized Horror can clear, but then you lose one of your better ways to deal with a wide board. I could imagine Pint-sized Horror into Doomsayer to buy some time.
I'm also looking for some pint-sized Cabal Shadow Priest shenanigans, but I don't think that is exactly what he's looking for, is it?
I think he needs to get rid of this board more than he needs to take a piece of it. Yeah, we're going to see pint size plus more. Okay, into Ackle. He wants to continue the card draw here.
He's desperate for the cycle.
Yeah, he still has 13 cards in his deck. One of those is Shadow Reaper Anduin, and until he draws it, OmegaZero has no way to really put any pressure on Fr0zen. Not to mention, Raza is still remaining in his deck. He doesn't have any of the pieces of his combo.
Fr0zen going to take a break from the armor gain. 54 is still really comfortable.
And now he is spreading Plague for a single Scarab. Here, what he's trying to do is open up space in his hand. Ultimate Infestation draws 5. He needs to ensure that he isn't running the risk of overdrawing his Jade Idols or anything of that sort.
Let me change your mind.
OmegaZero playing the removal game, but that is not a game that works against Jade Druid long term.
Yeah, Fr0zen has Ultimate Infestation in case he needs to remove things. Looks like he's just going to continue to empty it.
This is, I believe, the last Jade Idol he has remaining, so it's going to go. Maybe I miscounted there, but I thought that was the fourth one. Maybe it was the third.
You could be right. We'll see. We'll see if it even matters. I mean, Fr0zen could just go for the fatigue plan.
Well, if he is going to cast Ultimate Infestation, the fatigue plan is a little bit awkward, right? Doesn't have Jade left.
Mind if I roll knee?
Fr0zen's gonna have a full hand. And he's shaking his head. I mean, we know. Okay, so we.
Oh, he did draw. There is a Jade Idol. Okay, there was the fourth one rather than one missing.
We know that the most important card is that Jade Idol, but he also picks a Fire Black Paw, really powerful. And what the position that you also want to be in is developing more than one Jade at a time. So the priest can deal with one big Jade, even if it goes up to the dozens, you know, of stats.
Well, that is the first Psychic Scream. There is one more, thanks to the fact that that came off of Shadow Vision. So Aya is not totally safe here.
Golems are a girl's best friend.
And what makes this game, I think, very different from the game that Fr0zen played against Surrender yesterday, where Fr0zen was unable to withstand the assault from Surrender, is that Fr0zen has pressure on OmegaZero. OmegaZero is being forced each turn to deal with these, and OmegaZero not only doesn't have the resources now to actually even kill both of these minions this turn, but he isn't putting any pressure on Fr0zen because he's still missing that Shadow Reaper Anvil.
Right. I mean, another big difference is that by now Surrender was pounding the face of the Jade Druid
with the dragon.
A pass. This is a disaster for OmegaZero. We're more than 12 turns into this game, and OmegaZero can't do anything.
And Fr0zen just has a ton of resources in his hand to reload whenever OmegaZero does find the answer.
Yeah, he's threatening lethal at this point.
And he's at 66 life in total. Blood Mage Thalnos is not it. He does have Silence, Blood Mage, Spirit Lash, Dragonfire, which can clear the board. No, it doesn't. It's actually one off.
Right.
I was applying the spell damage twice in my head and then realized that was wrong. Yeah, that Mark of the Lotus actually is what brings this out of range of the exactly that
right.
Clear.
No, the Mark of the Lotus tech coming in huge right now for Fr0zen. Deck building has done a lot of heavy lifting for Fr0zen, both in his lineup preparation and his individual choices for some established decks. And OmegaZero is staring at death right now. He's got to make a play. Can't just be passive anymore.
It will start with Blood Mage Spirit Lash. Gets a little bit of life for OmegaZero, finds Raza.
Piece of the combo. But there's, what, 8, 13, 16, 20 damage. If Fr0zen picks up the second swipe, that'll be it.
I think it's that anyway.
Oh, yeah,
swipe
the
plus
branching pass.
Swipe, branching pass, punch. He's got +4, +4, +11 total. I believe that's going to be enough. Exact lethal. Branching paths for +1 attack. He's going to keep exploring the darkness, swipe in the face, and punching the face. And it will be Fr0zen who advances to the quarterfinals.
OmegaZero again gets stopped in the top 12 of the World Championship. And Fr0zen will keep America's hopes alive.
After what must have been a heartbreaking loss yesterday to Surrender for Fr0zen, he keeps his World Championship dream alive and advances to the quarterfinals.
Wow, what a series. You know, kind of looking back on how it started, you know, we had the Murloc Paladin kind of come off to a very fast start, kind of run over the Mage. And we had quite the comeback here from Fr0zen, and now the top 8 has been set. And I can't wait to hear what Fr0zen has to say. Raven is waiting by.
Thanks a lot. And Fr0zen, congratulations on that win. This was one of the longest series of the day we've had so far. How was it just as a whole for you? Because that was very, very close at almost all stages.
I think versus OmegaZero, it's a lot easier for me to actually get through because his priest is more tech versus aggro. He doesn't have cards like Lyra that can generate value, so he has a definite amount of damage. I felt pretty relaxed once I saw Malfurion in my opening hand. It's pretty easy to out-armor his deck.
Okay, and speaking of feeling relaxed, on the turn with the Velen, and when you chose to heal, this might seem like a while ago right now, but that was really close to the rope just ending, and then the follow-up, you managed to get the Raza for lethal that game. What did that feel like in those moments where the rope was burning? Because honestly, I was watching and thought, has he just missed his turn? But you made it.
I was just doing some calculations in my head. There's it's 38% to get the deal 3 dragon off the Nether Spite, and I really, even though I got top decked a few times this tournament, I really felt it this time that he had like 3 or 4 outs of the Power Wilds that he wasn't going to get it, and statistically the correct play. And I'm happy that I didn't get results oriented going for my outs instead of making the safer play.
Okay, and finally you'll be moving on to face Sintalol, who in terms of lineups doesn't really look too great for you when you look at it on paper, but have you had time to consider any strategies, any different lines, anything you can think about in terms of beating his lineup?
I think I just gotta hope for a miracle. Don't think on paper our lineups match up very poorly for me. Very poorly. I don't know. I can't even. I don't even think I have like 10%. But maybe there's like one sort of result where I queue every single 50-50 that I have, which I don't even have any 50-50 matchups. But yeah, I guess I just have to hope for a miracle.
There's nothing wrong with hoping for a miracle, but can we hear it again for the winner? It's Fr0zen. We go back over to Dan.